If somebody can help out with that. I'm going to ask Mrs. Oluni to please join. And then I'm going to ask Emeka, come. You haven't been around for a while. We haven't heard from you. Maybe you'll be able to help. Come up. I think I'm just going to leave that because I told Pastor Okutian to be here. I don't know. I think I saw him. I don't know. After the service, we had a discussion. All right? Sorry? Are you okay? Do we need to get you a different kind of chair? All right. Maybe we should change her chair. Let's use the plastic chairs. Let's take the stools off. All right? Okay? Hey, Joe, I can change chair to all of this. Okay. I was also expecting Mrs. Ogunlusi. Okay. How many chairs do we have? Where's Emeka? Sitting down. Okay. I'm just going to wait and give Pastor Okutian a few minutes if he's still going to be around before I ask somebody else to come and take his place. All right? Okay. Okay, good. Our theme for this month is on your backdrop right now. What? Character counts. Dr. Kemi Lawani, just come and join. Come. I know she doesn't want to come out. Just come. Come and take. I'm putting more women so that you won't think I'm biased. I am actually. Just come and join. Come on. Praise the Lord. I want us to talk about character today. Can we just... I want to read something that the Vice President wrote. And then we're going to start from there. I've even forgotten the Vice President's name. Oshibajo, thank you. Sometimes we don't get the spelling like this. Okay, Jide, maybe we should move this to the corner, okay? That corner. Thank you. Praise the Lord. Well, good afternoon. I was going to say introduce yourselves, but that's what they do on Nigerian television or radio. We don't need to do that. Praise the Lord. What I want us to do is, last week, most of you know what Mrs. Ogunlusi did. She came up here when it was testimony time, and she began to talk to us about the fact that this is something we're completely neglecting in the country right now. Amen? And we're paying a very big price for it. I wanted to throw a question at our guest this morning, but before I do that, let me just ask you, while I'm searching for what I want to ask you, what is character to you, Emeka? What's character to you?
Good morning, church. I'd say, well, I like a definition I saw which says it's a set of moral and mental attributes which an individual possesses. And it's something that reflects, for me, when you are under pressure. So for me, character is what actually you really show when you are under a lot of pressure. Mental for me, giving an instance, I'm an Arsenal fan. So, but one of the things that we get to see, using the analogy of sports, is what happens during the race. And sometime in the middle of the race, something happens, the team collapses. So for me, I'm very interested because I know growing up, we mentioned a lot about moral character. But also in terms of the mental attributes, what the team shows when they're under a lot of pressure tells me the makeup of that team and also the individual as well.
So you're saying there's corporate character, right?
Yes.
All right. Doc, I'm not going to take everybody one by one because it's going to waste a little bit of time. Let me get Dr. Adebola's opinions. What is character in layman's term? What does it mean to a Christian community and even those who are outside the church? What would you say to somebody if you wanted them to understand the definition of character today?
We can say that character is like the principle behind the things that you do. Character is what makes you do what you do. And character defines you. That's why when you talk about something, you say, what are the characteristics of this? These are the things that it will always do, it will always be. So character is the inner part, the source, the basis of the things you do. Your character defines what you say, your character defines what you do, your character defines your habit, and particularly like Emeka said, it defines what you do when you are under pressure. You can do some things because you want to impress, but when you are under pressure, your character comes out just like smoke that you cannot stop from coming out.
All right. Please, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to allow you. But I want to throw some things into the mix. First and foremost, I'm older than you, much older than you. But when I was in school, that's Dr. Kemi now. When I was in school and I was growing up, my first experiences in church, from scripture pasture to some of these other churches, when we started our faith, one of the biggest things they used to emphasize was character. How many of you who can identify with that? Who can remember that? Right? Come on, lawyer. Am I right? Come on now. I want you to. How many people can identify what I'm saying? So can you see the number of people who don't know that character was being taught in church? What has your experience been like about character so far? Church, your job. You're a medical doctor, and she's a surgeon in UCH. So what have your experiences at work, in church, and your associate? What has it been like?
I'm actually really nervous to be here.
So am I.
I think character is who you truly are. I think that in my experience of church, in my experience of living, I remember one of the earliest lessons for us in fellowship then in UI was 1 Corinthians 13. It was our creed. And love is everything. Love is what motivates you to do good. Love should be the center and the heart of everything. Love itself is the central gift. It's the best of all the gifts. And from that standpoint of being a Christian and having the love of God shed abroad in your heart, that is what should then motivate your influence in every other thing. So at work, you should do the things you do consistently because of who you are, not because of how you feel. Now, for instance, in my own line of work, it's a bit more crucial for you to be consistent because, you don't want a doctor who gives you the drug he feels like today. And then tomorrow, he doesn't really feel like giving you medication. So he sends you out of his clinic and he says, come back again 2 days' time. You have to achieve a certain measure of consistency that actually makes you boring. I tell my juniors that you can come to me in my dream and present a specific case scenario, and believe you me, my diagnosis and my decision making are the same. It's who you become. It's not just what you do at the end of the day. It's how you live, and it is ultimately how you will die. For us, for instance, you don't have people say, this man died. Even at the point of death, the medical society will still officiate in some ways at your funeral. It might be quiet, it may not be, depending on how prominent you are. But ultimately, you are a doctor. I think it's the same thing with the Christian faith. You are a Christian. It's not what you do on Mondays. It's not what you do when you feel like it. It becomes a way of life. Truth becomes a way of life. Love becomes a way of life. You know, it's just who you are.
All right,
Yes.
that's fine. Mrs. Oluni, I'm going to skip Mrs. Arabo. You do business. You have a lot of customers. Good ones, bad ones, tough ones. How do you see the role of character in all this?
Well, over the years, I discovered that, like everybody has said, is who you are inside. But I want to paint a scenario now. We need to have a way that, should I call it perception? There are these things about us that people get to know. It's not a matter of whether it's appealing to people or not. I heard a story some time ago about a minister.
About what?
A minister, I've forgotten his name, but I'm sure we all
don't want to know his name.
Yeah, okay. And I think something happened. They offered him a bribe, and he refused to take it. And he lost like around 7 million because he refused that bribe. Then play forward years later, he happens to be, there was an election that was about to take place, and he was among I think 2 people were left, a Nigerian, he was a Nigerian and somebody from another country. And at the end of the day, they chose him. When it happened, it was sad because it's like you lost this amount of money. But the countries that were competing, when the last person to vote now voted for the Nigerian. And his reason was that if you really want someone that will stand for the truth, choose this man. Even though he rejected them years ago. The point is that when people are looking for the right things, they know where to go. So if you are doing things now for the present and you're not taking care of your character, you're sabotaging your future. Because the time will come that thing will be put to test. A lot of people come, maybe, let me use myself now as an example. If I'm not able to deliver on your job, I will tell you, this will not happen. But there are some people, they don't just know how to say no. Everything about them is okay. So I think I've gotten to a stage in my life when people come to me, and I hear this often these days. They say, talk to her, ask her. Did she say yes? And it's like, once I say yes, they sleep. And I like, it's not that it happened overnight, but it's character. It's like, once I told my friends, these days people just come, and before maybe they give me deposit. These days, most people pay me in full. I've not done the job. They've not seen it. And I'm like, what's happening? It's like, they're getting to trust you. Yeah. Once you say yes, I have people doing wedding and they don't come to collect their wedding stuff until a day before. They're not even afraid. What if it doesn't? What if something happens? And I'm like, this is good, but it cost me a lot of things. If I tell you, come, then if it means I'm not going to sleep, if it means I'm not going to eat, if it means I'm going to stand all day, then I have to do it. But it's like it's now paying me back. My friend will tell you, I'm tired, and they'll just leave things undone. Character is something that will cost you. He say, a man that swears to his own odds and turneth not. So it's not everything that we do that is pleasing, we enjoy, but even in character, there is pain, there is tension, but we still need to stand. But I think character is as good as your word. Wow. You say a thing, you keep it. Whatever it costs you, you have to do it.
That's very good. I want to ask you, Mr. Rabba, what are we looking for in this character thing? What are the recognizable things for you? Or if you want to give an opinion or share your thoughts on that.
Okay. First of all, I like the definition that says that character is the real you, especially when no one is watching. When actors and actresses are given scripts to act, everybody is watching them. So they do things with the awareness that this is what I have to do because people are watching me. So they do things not because it's coming from within. It's made believe. But for character, it's different. It's your behavioral pattern that has set over time. So that is the real you. So even though no one is watching you, what comes out is what has set over the years.
Wow.
Is what has influenced your mind. And I like to say, like the word she used that really caught my attention is influence. It is what has influenced your mind over and again that you have taken in that forms your character. So it's not when everybody is watching you, it's what you do in your closet. Is the same you in the closet, the same you outside your closet. So I think it's very important that we become authentic people. We become real people. We become what we preach. Not make believe, not what we want people to see. So that we become in character. Though it's not, the Bible says that the wind bloweth, a man of the spirit is unpredictable. That is quite different from character.
Yeah.
In character, we should be predictable.
Yeah.
That, when the Bible says, let your yea be your yea, let your nay be your nay. We should come to that point when people are able to, to predict that this person will stand out, this person will be truthful, this person will be different. It should influence and impact on everything we do and everywhere we are found.
Oh, thank you very much. Somebody wants to ask a question. Quick.
Good afternoon, church. Good morning, church. So,
Do you mind standing?
okay.
Yeah, just for the mic.
So my question: can character be, or my questions? Can character be gifted?
Gifted.
Yes.
How?
Are some easier for some people
Okay.
than others, or do we all have equal efforts to make to have a particular character? Now, another question. People say this person has bad character, this person has good character.
So who's judging?
Is character binary, or are there gray areas?
Okay.
And
Good.
now, what is the relationship of character to qualities like honesty, hard work, and so on and so far? How does it relate? So basically, is character just character, or is there something else to it that links it to other good or bad attributes? Thank you.
Okay. Who wants to build the card? You can take one each, you can take one or two. So let's respond to that. Those are 4 questions in one. Let's just quickly deal with it. All right, give her the mic back, but somebody should borrow her mic. Okay, that's fine.
I almost got lost because it threw me when he said it's character binary. So my mind started traveling. I want to come from the other side because it's a very broad definition. Because growing up, I went to Assemblies of God Church. So, and then you understood the SU people. So, like a pious brother, bless you, and there's a certain disposition. And as pastor would say, those days you will trust a Christian to be your accountant, because largely. But to expand the scope of the conversation, character is built. It's a deliberate effort. And everybody, somewhat in the course of our growth, there's somewhere we are always lacking. Maybe I'm saying from my own personal experience. I don't know if there's anybody that is perfect here. So it's a conscious effort that is built. So look at it like a house. You are building from the foundation. You lay the foundation, you build and build and build. And at some point you build a roof. Then at some point it begins to leak. So you have to go up there and say, oh, this place is leaking. So this part of the house is leaking. So this part of my life is leaking. I need to call something or whatever it means for me to cover that space. And why it may be easier for some people is also, a man is a function of what he sees and hears consistently. And the way certain people have been raised. So they've been raised, when you go to your neighbor's house, don't eat. If they give you something, say no thank you. You hear kids say, my mommy says that, can I call my mommy before I would take that thing? So it has been built in them over time. Now somebody coming from a different background, it becomes much more difficult. Like somebody says, Emeka, why do you and your wife, are you people normal? Why do you people do this kind of work on impact projects? But certain things have been put in over a period of time. It's easier for some people to do certain things. However, it's also for me sometimes to be orderly, like my own personal life. The first thing my wife always asks me is clean or dirty. I'm sure she's doing her head from that place, and says clean or dirty because she wants to throw it to the machine, because I would take the thing and just hang it, and she says clean or dirty. I'm like, dirty. Then she takes it and folds it because it has been part of her. So sometimes I make a deliberate effort. Then until I saw that video, that video that says take certain goals in a day, lay your bed, let that be the first thing you do. I don't know if you've seen that video. So after a period of time, for like maybe 6 weeks, I was doing it. When I wake up, I would lay the bed. After a period of time, I snap back. And recently again, I say, okay, I'm going to start. But you will fall sometimes along the way. But the most important thing is to recognize that there's a deficit, and you make that conscious decision to build that thing. So that's where I would.
Anybody else want to respond?
I think that character must be built, like you said, but there's the part of the process that's a gift. The thing is, insight is a gift. The ability to see things and realize what you require. Like you said, you have a leaky roof, you see the roof is leaking, you need to call your carpenter. So that part of it is a gift. You see the deficiency in yourself, or you see some traits that you desire to emulate or to acquire, and then you look for ways to try to get that. The second part of it that's a gift is the process. God will take you through all sorts of things to build in you the traits and characteristics that you desire. He has shown you that you should desire it. Then he will take you through how to acquire those traits, and that part of it is not necessarily pleasant. Now, the part where you have to do is you can then choose to allow the process to bring you to become that person that you want to be or that you should be. Or you can choose to acquire bitterness on the other side. Even that itself is some kind of character. So I think it's both.
Let's the last question I'll be asked, I want us to look at it very well. Who determines what good character is and what bad character? I think that's a very good question. What do you say? Isn't that a big problem? Doc, do you want to help us? What's good character? What's bad character? What are our references? How do we know what is good or what? You're going to say Bible. I know you people that haven't read it. You're going to say Bible. I know people are going to say that. Apart from the Bible.
Yeah, before the question is answered, I want to add to it. Okay. And I want Dr. Adebola to answer it. What I'm looking at is the question of character change. People change based on political factors, social factors around them, and offices or positions they have come to attain in life. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up as a lawyer, my boss, whenever we are traveling, he would tell his driver that please don't speed where you see children on the road because they can easily cross the road. Yeah. And I don't want my car to hit any child. But later he became pro-chancellors of universities. He had security apparel, and his security apparel would be beating people, and he would keep quiet. At times they will tell him that people will come to him that that man is doing something and your security has dealt with it. He will not say anything simply because those security people around him are doing what he believes they are meant to do. As a result, his character has changed because of the factors or the circumstances surrounding him. Now, I want Dr. Adebola to answer this question. If you see things like that, especially when people are growing up and circumstances around them have changed them, will you still say that they have strong characters, good characters, bad characters, or that his character is just waving like the wind of the sea? I'll give you another example. Jonathan complained when he was president. President Jonathan.
Please add president.
President Jonathan complained. He said when he went to his hometown in Bayelsa, he saw his uncle in the crowd and he was trying to go and meet his uncle, but the security fenced him off and said, no, you cannot. So he said, okay, let my uncle come. I need to greet him here publicly. They said, no, your uncle cannot come near you. That night, President Jonathan left Bayelsa and went back to Abuja. They asked him, they said, why did you do that? He said, because I was sad that I have become somebody else, not the person I want to be. Now political factors change him from who he wants to be. Now, so Dr. Adebola, I know that you have a lot of experience in life. All these things happen. I keep praying that any office that I attain in life that will not allow me to sit down and play with my friends, I don't want that type of office. That means I become somebody totally different and my character has changed. And people will start saying, don't mind him. When he was this was what he was, when he was that. So how do you look at that, sir? Do you look at them as people who have good characters, or we just manage them? That the factors, social and political factors around them have changed them and they don't have a choice.
All right, let's get them to the question. Let's see what Doc says.
Well, the first question is how do you determine good or bad character? And I'm sorry to disappoint you, Pastor. It is from the Bible. Okay, jokes apart. Well, there are cultures differ from place to place. There are things that certain cultures respect that other cultures that some cultures respect certain things, some cultures don't respect certain things. And this kind of social shall I say pressure tends to determine the way you behave sometimes. But at the end of the day, what the Bible teaches us is that there is absolute good and there is absolute wrong. There are certain things that we do not need to debate on. There are things that even when society brings before us, we have to stand our ground and show character. That's to the question of what determines good characters. People change. Yes, you are right, Barrister. And I hope I'm not going to, maybe I might sound like just talking. If I am, forgive me and correct me. I think what we need here to make a distinction between character and behavior. What we see people do that change over time is their behavior, the way they react to a particular situation. In fact, the last story you told just makes the point. President or former President Jonathan's character showed in that situation because he was made to behave in a way that was totally against his character, and he reacted to it. I mean, he actually protested. He protested against the situation, the circumstances that made him to go against his character. Psychologists tell us that when you see a person behave, there are two components to that behavior. They say there's a component of the person's nature and a component of the person's nurture. Your nature is what you come with, the things that are natural with you, the things that you will do normally. And your nurture is what your environment makes you do. The things that your environment has told you over and over and over again that is right, even though it is wrong. For example, I was listening to something this morning about somebody who was put in a position, and he was saying publicly that, look, please, if you see me behave differently, remind me. If you see me spend money that you think this position couldn't have given me, just nudge me, because I don't want to come back to you and you tell me, Shebi, when you two went there, that's the way. I think that talks about character of a person who knows, who is aware that his environment can influence his behavior and he is making efforts to ensure that his character shows through.
All right, but you've just thrown in a major a door has just been opened. Is it possible that some of us are complaining about our husband or wives or children's behavior as opposed to their character? I don't know if you get the point I'm making. That opens a whole can of worms here, because I want us to address this issue of behavior and character. Where does behavior come from? I'm asking you. If you've distinguished between behavior and character, where does behavior come from? We know where character comes from what you've shared. Now, where does behavior come from?
In my experience, behavior comes from character and it is affected by the environment. Okay. I mean, talking about husband and wives, for example, I know that there are certain things I do to my wife that are not my character, but I just do it to make a point. I am human.
Yeah.
And there are times she will tell me, this is not you. You are just, you are just shakara.
Good.
And so that's where it comes from. And we need to ensure that we are, first of all, ensure that we have good character and allow our character to be the more important determinant in our behavior.
Good. I want to read something. This is from Professor Shibajo. He said, as a young student in London School of Economics and Political Science, University of London in 1980, my school fees were delayed in a particular term, and there were problems remitting it from Central Bank in Nigeria. So I spoke to the students' counselor in my faculty, who asked me to go to the bank to ask for a loan. I asked, how? How do I go for a loan when I don't have any money? I owe £600 and I probably have only £50 in the bank. Where would I get collateral to take that loan? Anyway, I got to the bank and I explained the problem to the lady across the counter. I didn't fill any form. I didn't see any manager. There was no application. I told the lady across the counter that I needed to pay £600 for my fees. And she simply asked my name, brought out my ledger. She looked at it and found out that I had no money in there. She asked me when I thought I would pay back. I said maybe 6 weeks. She gave me a document I signed and she gave me £600 to pay my school fees. 1980. I paid my fees and I paid back when my check came from Nigeria. But in the same United Kingdom, a few years later, if you carried a Nigerian passport, the bank will not even open up an account for you. Why? Because some Nigerians abuse the trust that financial transactions require. They thought, how foolish these Oyibo people. They use credit cards to buy cars, furniture, electronics, and ran back to Nigeria and hampered the opportunity of others in getting a loan from the bank account. In other words, what is the cost of this character thing that we are ignoring? This is a wrap. Do you see the circumstances now?
I wanted to say concerning the change of character that he asked about. There are sometimes you have character is solid because it's formed over time and it's set. But there are sometimes we are under pressure and we confront some things and the opposite of who we are comes out. Like I like to use the example of Abraham in the Bible. Abraham was a man of character. Let me put it like that. But there was a time that he had to lie that Sarah was his sister.
Yes, she was.
Yes, but he gave them a wrong impression and not his wife.
Yeah.
You understand? It's because he was under pressure and he thought the way he could salvage the situation that confronted him was to lie. And there was another part also concerning David, that he got scared at a time and he had to feign madness, that he was mad. So at times, even though character is set, at times, certain situation that confronts us forces out the wrong responses from us, but it doesn't mean we have changed. You might miss it because we are humans. At times we miss it. But it's not left for us to retrace our steps when we miss it and go back to who we are.
So we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bath water. That's the bottom line. That we shouldn't judge people. I wouldn't lie to you. I don't know how I will behave if I become governor. That's just the truth. But I also know that the supernatural pressure that governors face, where there are 200 people on one side waiting to see you, 500 people on one side waiting to see you, 200 people on one side waiting to see you, everybody tearing at you, is likely to bring something out of you that you won't normally. How many husbands change their, I was going to say character, change their behavior when their wives ask them for money? So you see where we're going. But I want to talk about this cost of character. This cost, because I think we're not seeing it. That is costing us more than we know that it's costing us. And guess what? It's costing our children, and then our children's children. You can't open. My wife has been trying to open an account in England. Every time we travel, they won't let her. I have an account in England, but I got under the line. You know what I mean? I got my own in 1984. I opened it in 84 before this decree started. Now you can't open an account, and now they've thrown everybody away. Once you're a Nigerian, so this character issue is more than just us. All right? Anybody want to comment about that, or do we move to the next? Somebody asked a question here. It says, "Sir, is character Christianity or humanity? Is character Christianity or humanity?" So who's the humanities professor? Yes, sir. We're going to round up in the next 5 minutes. So
character is humanity.
Good.
But there is a Christian culture, a Christian way of life, a Christian how to do things. And that Christian how to do things produces a Christian character. So every human being comes with a character. I mean, the mere fact that you are a human being gives you some characters. You have the characteristics of a human being. Well, sometimes kind, sometimes wicked, but probably not exactly as wicked as a poisonous snake. That's part of your human character. But beyond that, there is what is expected of a Christian. I think it was a maker that talked about when people employed Christians as accountants, and I can relate to that. I knew then when people employed Christians as an accountant,
you could trust them.
With time, people started abusing it. People then presented themselves as Christians to get accounting jobs, and then they abused it. And when you now say, when you are interviewing for an accountant job and you say, "I'm a Christian," say, "Okay, no problem, but let's look at your past." So all this, when people abuse things, coming back to the last point you made, everybody that should have taken advantage of having that character gets affected. I mean, I experienced what the vice president experienced. I was in England at the time, and I was actually a student in the UK, but I had a business in Nigeria at that time, and I got an order to supply some computers here in Nigeria, and because I wasn't at home, I couldn't arrange it. And I went to my bank in England. I told them I needed to supply these computers, and they gave me the loan. I paid for the computers, I supplied it, the client paid, and I paid back the loan in the bank. Now, of recent, I have not been going to England as I used to, and my account has not been active. And in England, your account doesn't go dormant. No matter how it's there. But that account was closed on account of the fact that I was in Nigeria.
Wow.
And that's what happened to people who are abused. There was a time I was invited into a campaign in England to fight British Airways for not allowing Nigerians to buy tickets with a credit card. And I declined. I said I wasn't going to join that campaign because I believed that they were right. Because a lot of our people were misbehaving. And the people who were behind the counter said, Oyibo no nsheke now. I said, no, but remember that you are the children of Mawamewale Letolo. These were the kind of names people registered when they were taking loans to buy things in England. And when the person chasing the loaner goes to your house, they say, I'm asking for Mr. Mawamewale Letolo. They say, out in law. And this actually happened. Whenever you hear that statement, Oyinbo Go, it was one of the names people used in those days to defraud the white man because they had developed a trust society. And people who don't believe in trust go there to abuse the trust. So, character is humanity, but there is a Christian culture that produces a Christian character.
All right. Can I just get your closing remarks and then so I can round up this part? Let me just start about this issue. Why should we take this very, 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 very seriously?
There's a book by Jim Collins that talks about built to last. And that phrase for me is very critical because even by the nature, why do we go back to God to say we are sorry? It's because He has said this, and that if you will come to the throne of grace, you will obtain what? Mercy. So if God has changed His mind and says, I regret, so by the character of God by Himself, by the reason by which we exist, there's a consistency. So if He says no, by the way blood flows from your veins, it goes to your brains and all over, they say, no, I've changed my mind, it's not going to work like that. We are all just going to drop what's dead. So, by the nature of which everything really runs, the generator is, if you pour diesel, it will work. So character is what builds something that is enduring. If you want to build anything that is enduring, there has to be character. And if you want to abuse process, if you want to go through a shortcut, if you want to build something that is quick, then just throw character out of the window. And Africa is a practical example of character being thrown, out of the window. And lastly, one time I was saying that maybe one of the things that can help people is because our society does not reward character. Our society, so maybe we also have to start building reward systems because along the way, human beings become discouraged. So we need to see a man for who he is, and say, you give them a reward, not because they have so much money or the cars that they drive and all of those things. So I think for us, we have to also maybe build an economic case and see, like you said, what has happened in the UK, and we've seen that, look, there is no shortcut to these things. You have to go through this process for you to build something that is, really enduring.
I also believe that nature and God has a way of paying us back.
Okay.
Character is like sowing. You may not see the result immediate, but it's a matter of time. It may not even be in your own lifetime. It may be your children that will enjoy. Like what they've said so far, I have a belief that God will always help you out. We just finished talking about opening the account. I was in the US and I just walked into the bank because I was making money there, and just to the counter, I said, I want to open an account. They didn't even ask me any question. They gave me the phone and I filled it. And people were asking me, in US you have? I said, yes. I said, no, they didn't ask me anything. When I traveled also to have my baby, I was at the airport. All I told them was, I want to go and deliver. And they were like, just stamped it. When I got to the immigration, they looked at me and said, Madam, go back. The guy didn't know I specifically told them I'm going to deliver. They said, why? I said, I don't want to. Nigerian hospital gave me issues. Just say it the way. The worst they will say is to say, go back. So what are you afraid of? So I think this character thing is our life. You may be feeling the pain now. It's okay. I think it's far more better to feel the pain now than for you to suffer later. How long do you have to spend on earth? Maximum, let me exaggerate, 100. But eternity is forever. And I don't think it would be right for us to trade our eternity for what we are going to gain here on earth.
Wow, come on, let's appreciate it.
I'd like to say charisma is good. It can take you anywhere. But what will sustain you anywhere is character. People have made a wreck of beautiful marriages because of character. people have seen great positions, you know. They've been exposed to different things, but they came down because of character. Like in Nigeria, I keep wondering why so many women get up there and end up stealing and being the ones, you know, that, you know, come down from the positions they are in. But there are so many positions that people have seen that, you know, they came down, they climbed down from such honorable positions because they didn't have the right character to maintain that position. So I think we should take it very seriously.
Okay.
I'm always an advocate of the women, so don't be so unfair to us. This is 2 women out of like 300 men. So it's the main problem is our society has to change. And it has to start with us because our governments are being drawn from amongst us. And if the general pool of people do not acquire better behavior, better character, more consistency, it will be impossible for you to find a governor who will behave better. It will be impossible for you to get a good president because he's not coming from the US to rule you. He didn't grow up abroad. If he did, you would not allow him to contest or you kill him or something. He's going to come from amongst us here. And this is the main reason why we have to become better people in our own little corners and then gradually just allow, you know, a certain culture to permeate into our society. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very good. Come on, I appreciate you for that.
You've said it all. It's just perfect.
Thank you. Can we appreciate them? Can you please move this center? Let's appreciate them truly. This is the first one we've done. You want to say something? Okay, can you give out the mic? This is the first one we've done. I promise you next month we'll do it a little bit better. Learning some lessons from today. And I'll make sure we make all the right adjustments as we go along. All right?
I'm sorry to take us back, and I'll try to keep it very short. But I really want to thank Mr. Falola for the questions that he raised. I remember some months ago, or even weeks, there was a post that went viral on WhatsApp that described 2 great individuals and their character without first putting their names. One of them, you know, really celebrated him, how hardworking he was, how promptly he attended to duties, how, you know, generous he was to people around him. The other one, it denigrated him, talked about how he was disposed to alcohol, talked about how he wasn't, you know, he was a very, you know, prone to outbursts, you know, poor temperance and the likes. At the end, the first individual whose character was widely, you know, very greatly celebrated turned out to be Adolf Hitler. And the second one was the celebrated Winston Churchill. So that threw up a paradox. Now, in the modern world, we would read that, you know, profile of those individuals, and of course, we will come to conclusions. We also have, you know, there are a lot of books about the biography of Adolf Hitler is very well, you know, written. And there's a lot to, you know, comment about that man. You can't question the hardworking nature of the man. Even excerpts of people who worked or served under Osama bin Laden speak glowingly about the attributes of that leader. Now, Dr. Adebola talked about, you know, character as the underlying principles. And a lot of what they've said have pointed to something. And I say this perhaps to stress to the young generation, my generation, because we're in a world where character is shaped by expediency. Now, those principles must be tested against a set of moral principles. You have to measure character against a set of moral principles, which is why when Dr. Adebola says, we must come back to the Bible, because in the end, as Christians, we're a privileged group of people who automatically, the litmus test for our own character naturally ensures that we benefit the collective against the few. There's a powerful story in the movie Concussion, Ben Omalu's story, the Nigerian doctor who went against the NFA. And what I distilled from that story was when he said, any individual or group of people who seeks to empower, privilege, or benefit a few as against the many, no matter how principled you are, because in the end, bad individuals or people that we will condemn have character. They operate by principles, sound principles. They are consistent in their words. They ensure that their actions align with their statements. You would actually be able to even borrow lessons from them. But for as long as we cannot test your character against what benefits the collective, and that's why we have a lot of politicians, people in business who are building compartments in their lives. They are going out and doing what is expedient. But for as long as that thing, when tested against time, will not benefit the many, but is only designed to benefit your own interest or the interest of the few surrounding you, your character is under question. Your character is flawed. So as we go out into the world, we will face a lot of challenges. There will be temptations. And then there must be the will to stand for your character. Character is the principles. It's not necessarily the behavior. But your behaviors are shaped over time, as we have acknowledged today, by even the nurturing environment that we exist in. But you must have the political will. And that's where we connect with our, elder, the barrister, when he talked about, his boss sharing his life's experience with us. You must stand up for character. It will not be convenient, but you must stand up and insist, I will do things this way, or you will not work for me. And even if, you will be chastised, you will be thrown out of offices, you will be, you will face negative situations, but that is where a lot of us are failed. We want character to be convenient. So I think I want to urge us, that is the litmus test. It must benefit everybody, the future. It must, even when they don't see it, but you as the leader know that this thing is designed to improve your lives, then your character is under sound principles.
Wow, come on. I tell people that there's no difference between you and Barack Obama or Donald Trump. There's no difference between a white man and a black man. Unfortunately, there's basically no physical difference between you and an unbeliever. You breathe the same air. You have the same challenges. What you have is the fact that you have God in your life. And if that doesn't inform what you do, the two stories I'm going to share with you, I was going to read them, but I'm going to leave them out. They're all from Professor Oshibajo. And the reason why I liked it because it was fitted well. He said, there's a man in Lagos who happened to be my friend also, Pastor Remy Morgan, who when he started his book, he has the biggest bookshop in Nigeria, imports the largest amount. As a matter of fact, Remy Morgan at one particular stage was the third largest seller of Robert Kiyosaki's book in the world. Third largest in the world. And Nigeria was the country that bought the largest number of Robert Kiyosaki books. And when he started out his work, nobody would give him credit. And so he had to do it. He's an accountant. So he had to struggle. You know what I mean? But sooner or later, somebody decided to test him out. 30 days credit, 60 days credit. And they said, because he's such an organized professional, he would make sure you get your money as and when due. And today, almost every major book publisher gives him 120 days of credit. You know what that means in any man's business? That's like eliminating capital. That came out of him proving that his character was different from everybody else. Have you ever borrowed money to somebody who said he's going to pay you back, and when it's time to pay you back, he has this wonderful story about people who died in his life? Come on, am I right? I found out that when we talk about wickedness in church, we always think it's, like she said, Hitler and so on and so forth. You'll be surprised that the Bible regards somebody who is wicked as somebody who borrows money and doesn't pay back. The second story, or the last story, he said he had a typist, a secretary, an administrator, an admin secretary, and a typist in his office as a lawyer. He was working for the then Minister of Justice. He wasn't the Minister of Justice then. They were all working in the same office. The admin man, of course, is the senior officer. The admin guy was the big guy. There was a middle guy, and then there was a small typist who wasn't well educated. But he said, of all the three of them, when it's time to close from work at 3 o'clock, they are all gone. It was this typist who sometimes he will have to take home at 11 o'clock in the night or 12 midnight. So that guy kept working. And so when the justice minister got a job in The Hague, he wrote to Professor Oshibajo and said, Prof, I need a secretary who will come and work with me in The Hague. He said I could have recommended number one, who was far more qualified, or number two, who was even maybe slightly more qualified, but I'm going to recommend this boy who was a typist, and the boy relocated to The Hague, went to school, developed himself, and said a few years down the line, he sent him a car to say thank you to him for giving him that opportunity. All based on his character. But character without a value system, like she said, is totally useless. Which is one of the reasons why I said to us in this church, this year we're going to focus on our culture and our value system. And we're going to use the 7 habits as a guide. Think win-win. Too many of our businesses are meant for our profit, not the profit of the person who's buying the goods or services that we're offering. We must distinguish ourselves. The last thing I want to talk to you about before we close this morning, I got a phone call from somebody in a newspaper in this city, and they said they wanted me to talk about tithing. I should join the bandwagon of people making comments about tithing. Now, how do you complain about something that is sustaining your ministry? Can anybody tell me? At the same time, if I keep quiet, they say it's because I'm making money from tithe, which I haven't started making yet. I'm praying for all of you to really prosper. Am I making sense? So if I'm entitled to 10% of what you give, I need to get your 10% up. Am I making sense? For me to make any money. I don't know if you get the point I make. So it pays me when you get more. So my job is to make sure that you get more so that I can get more. I don't know if you get my point. That's clear. So I said to the gentleman, I won't speak because I know you journalists, you would take and write whatever you want. And I said, I would rather write to you and tell you my opinion about tithing. But I said this to him, I said, I don't even believe that all this hula baloo is about tithing or not tithing. I said, because there was a story by Simon Sinek who began to tell one time about a man whose company, I wanted to show the video but we don't have time, whose company was about to go under. And then he decided that, listen, rather than go under, let's all sacrifice so that the company can stay afloat. So everybody had to take 2 weeks off from work. So they now decided among themselves to cut down the salary of the organization by half a month or a month. So they spread it among themselves, and 2 or 3 years they came out of the trouble.